What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. I hope y'all are having a fantastic day, and thank y'all for the support lately, especially with the start of this season. Videos have been absolutely popping off, seeing a lot of traffic on the Discord, on TikTok, on YouTube, so thank you guys so much for that support. Means the world to me. Now in today's video, I want to go over all of our Solar 3.0 changes with some of those verbs that we can talk about: Cure, Restoration, Radiant, Scorch, Ignite, all of that, talking about our aspect and fragments for each of our class abilities, so our Hunter, our Titan, and our Warlock, and all of those changes that came with this Solar 3.0 system. So to start off right here, we're going to be talking about our solar verbs, just like we had for stasis and then also for void. So first off, we have Cure, which you are healed in a burst of mending solar light. Next, we have Restoration. You continuously regenerate health and shield over time. It cannot be interrupted by taking damage. I love that aspect of it. So even if you take damage, Restoration is going to keep proccing. Next off, we have Radiant. So weapons are enhanced by the power of the Traveler and deal increased damage to foes. So this is almost like becoming charged with light and using high energy fire, but it is called Radiant specifically for our solar subclass. Next off, we have Scorch. The target is singed by destructive solar light, taking damage over time. The Scorch damage increases as the target accumulates more Scorch stacks. So over time, the Scorch damage builds up. After it hits 100 on that Scorch stacks, it actually ignites, which Ignite is a large solar damage in the area of that target. So after that Scorch stacks up, it'll actually explode in that solar damaging explosion. This is going to be super nice for some of our builds. We're going to be able to get a lot of health back with Restoration, I feel like, or continuously having it, I should say. Instead of a big chunk of health, it'll just continuously give you that little bit back to back. And then also Radiant right here, getting that extra damage for those foes. I think that is going to be my two big ones that I play for. And then also lastly, some Ignite to get that crazy solar explosion. Moving on to our grenades here, we are actually able to have all of these grenades on each of our characters. So all you got to do is head over to Ikora, pay a little glimmer and legendary shards, such like that, to unlock the aspects and fragments that she has, as well as grenades for our void and solar subclasses. So you can go there with all of our Titan, Hunter, and Warlock, grab all of these from her, and then you meditate right next to her, and it is applied to your character, so you can use all of their grenades that we have to offer. So first off, for grenades, we have a new one called a Healing Grenade. Releases a wave of benevolent solar light on impact with targets or the environment that cures allies and creates a blessing that grants restoration on pickup, tracks to allies in the flight path. So it's a nice way to heal your fellow Guardians using that Cure, and then also Restoration verbs from Solar 3.0. Our Solar Grenade now applies 20 stacks of that Scorch to targets on initial detonation, and then 14 Scorch stacks per second to target in the lingering damage area, and then it also has a base cooldown increase, so getting that Scorch to stack up to 100 again on enemies causes them to ignite and explode. Trip Mine now applies that 40 Scorch stack to targets. Firebolt applies a 20 Scorch stack. Fusion Grenades are 40 to the Scorch stack score. Incendiary Grenades now apply 60 Scorch stacks to the target caught in it, rather than applying the generic Solar Burn. Thermite Grenades applies 10 to hitting each target by each wave, so every time it rolls out, it'll apply a stack of 10 to our targets. Lastly, we have Swarm Grenades. It has 5 score stacks to the target caught in each one of those little detonation drones. So this is a great way to get that Scorch to stack up via our grenades. So the first subclass we're going to be talking about is our Hunter and Gunslinger. So we have two different options in Deadshot and Marksman. Deadshot is our 6-shot, now deals increased damage while radiant, one of those solar verbs where we do extra damage based on being charged with light, if you will, but via a solar version of it. Now refunds golden gun rounds when you cause a target to ignite while your super is active rather than on a kill. So you get super back by making those targets explode with that ignite when you have it active. Now our Marksman, which is our damage 3-shot variation, now deals increased damage again with that radiant buff active. Now over-penetrates targets by default, which is nice to get that extra damage on targets behind them when you're blowing through with a golden celestial shot. Blade Barrage, increased consistency of tracking strength on all of those knives, which is super nice, and an increased PvE damage versus PvE combatants by 25%, so it's back to slapping decently hard. So our throwing knife that explode, not our weighted one, deals 20 of that scorch stack per knife rather than the solar burn, and our weighted throwing knife now refunds class ability on precision kills rather than getting the actual knife back itself, and causes scorch targets to ignite on hit, so causing those explosions. We have a new melee and a new dodge ability for our Hunter here with a lightweight knife, a quick throwing knife option that deals moderate damage and causes you to become radiant when you land a precision hit. Next off, we have that acrobatic dodge, which is a new ability. Perform an acrobatic leap by driving a solar knife into the ground. On landing, you and your allies are made radiant. Rework the Knock 'em Down subclass perk, so now passively grants you Solar Super. Marksman Golden Gun, you get that 15% additional damage resistance for 4 seconds at that 33%. Deadshot has a 4-second increased duration. Blade Barrage now fires 5 additional knives per waves at that plus 70% on that. In addition, Radiant defeating targets with your equipped throwing knife refunds your melee energy, so when you are Radiant and you defeat someone with that throwing knife, you do get some melee energy back. Next off for our Titans here, we have our Sunbreaker, so Hammer of Soul now shatters into explosive secondary projectiles as its default behavior. Burning Maul, increased initial light attack launch distance, so you can go flying with that thing. After landing 10 light attack hits, now automatically spawns a heavy attack cyclone at the target's location, so if you just keep spinning, you're going to get that same effect as a heavy attack cyclone as long as you hit those 10 light attacks. For our Hammer Strike right here, no longer weakens targets. It now applies that 40 stack damage to its primary target and deals damage to the targets behind them. If the primary damage is killed by the direct impact, they automatically ignite and explode. Throwing Hammer, it now applies Cure and refunds your melee costs when picked up after you strike a target, so you get that little extra healing and health regen. Next off right here, Roaring Flames and Soul Invictus are our two aspects for our Titan. So we have Roaring Flames now activates from solar kill abilities and kills from solar ignition, so those solar explosions. That is pretty nice. Now we have an increased ability damage to combatants per stack. It was 30, it is now 20, so it's a little decrease there. Now we have a roughly 13% increase to damage to players per stack. It's down from 25%, so another little nerf there. Soul Invictus, this is super nice to have those sunspots. So sunspots are created from our solar ability kills on scorched targets, and Hammer of Soul impact. So even if a target is scorched for 5 or 10 of those scorch stack points, they will cause a sunspot to proc with Soul Invictus. Sunspots now apply Scorch, which is also good. It takes damage to targets and causes them to have that Scorch and explode when it stacks up high enough. Sunspots no longer provide an outgoing damage boost. Now they grant restoration when you pass through it. So you get that health regen, but no damage increase, which is a good thing for that PvP realm in my opinion. Grenade and melee regeneration bonus granted by Soul Invictus reduced from 3 to 1.5, so we're getting our grenade and melee back a little bit slower than we did beforehand when we're standing in those Soul Invictus. So our last subclass we're going to be going over for Solar is our Warlock here. So starting off with Dawnblade and Daybreak. Now sends out a streak of flames on impact as its default behavior. So it's that extra little bit of oomph on that solar damage. Well of Radiance, definitely a big nerf for me. No longer provides an overshield to players standing in the well. You now are damage resistance has an increased against those combatants, player abilities, and special and heavy weapon damage to partially offset that not having an overshield, but I definitely think you get slapped a lot harder in the well so far. Next off, Celestial Fire, our melee tracking effectiveness increased at longer ranges. So that got a nice little buff right there. Reduced damage for each individual projectile from 35 to 30. So that's nice. It's not going to bang quite as hard, but still really nice. Damage scalar increase against PvE combatants by 25%. So we'll get a little bit better damage on PvE combatants. Probably my favorite addition for Solar 3.0 for Warlock is this Incendiary Snap right here. Snap your fingers to create a short-range fan of burning sparks which explode and scorch enemies. Super nice. You out there just looking crazy with that snap. I love the animation and how it looks. Phoenix Dive. Dive to the ground and create a burst of solar light that cures yourself and nearby allies. Kind of had this before, but it's nice to have that cure on our Solar 3.0. Heat Rises right here now also improves Phoenix Dive. While Heat Rises is activated, you are granted Restoration while diving, and it deals damage to and scorches nearby enemies while landing. That is very interesting, and we also grant 70 effective airborneness to your equipped weapons rather than removing the airborne accuracy penalty. So we're going to be better effective in the air, and when we use Phoenix Dive, we get Restoration, and it deals damage to enemies while scorching them. So finally here, I know this is a little bit longer with all of those changes. I just want to go over the aspects for each of our characters. The fragments are going to be the same and they're pretty self-explanatory. Plus we don't have all of them unlocked yet. So first off, for our hunter, we have Knock 'em Down. Like I said before, your solar supers are enhanced. Golden Gun Deadshot has increased duration. Golden Gun Marksman has increased damage resistance and duration. Blade Barrage launches more projectiles. While Radiant, your final blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refunds your melee energy. Next off, we have Gunpowder Gamble right here, so defeating targets with abilities, solar debuffs, or solar weapons to charge up an improved solar explosion. Press Q, so my grenade, to throw a solar explosion that can be shot in air to cause the ignition. So this is where we get that, charge it up, throw our grenade, and shoot our grenade to cause that big solar ignition explosion. Last but not least, we have On Your Mark. So weapon final precision blows grant you and nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration, stacks up to 3 times. Activating your class ability immediately grants the maximum of 3 stacks for On Your Mark. Next, we're going to be going over our Warlock aspects here. So first off, we have Icarus Dash, which is our dodge mid-air while airborne. While Heat Rises is activated, you have an additional charge, so all of our Warlocks know how this bad boy works. Next, we have Touch of Flame. So your healing, solar, firebolt, and fusion grenades have enhanced functionality. You can read what each one of these do below. Healing, we have improved strength for cure and restoration effects. Solar grenades have an increased lingering duration, periodically emits blobs of lava around its perimeter. Firebolt has increased target search, radius, and maximum target count. And then fusion grenades explode twice. Last, for our aspect, we have Heat Rises here, so you can fire weapons, melees, and throw grenades while gliding. My grenade is press Q, hold to activate your Heat Rises by consuming your grenade. Final blows while airborne increase the duration of Heat Rises and grant you melee energy. Last up, we have our Titan aspects. So first, we have Roaring Flame here. Final blows with your solar abilities or ignitions increase the damage of your solar abilities, stacking up to ×3. So this is super easy to get it ×3 right now with Solar 3.0. Next off, we have Soul Invictus. So solar ability kills Hammer of Soul impacts, and defeating those scorched targets create sunspots. Your ability regens faster, and your super drains more slowly when you're standing in a sunspot. Sunspot also applies a scorch and deals damage to targets. Entering a sunspot applies that restoration effect on your guardian. Lastly, we have Consecration. So while sliding, activate your charged melee ability to launch a wave of solar energy forward, damaging and scorching targets in front of you as you leap into the air. It's kind of like our stasis for our Titan when we slide and create a stasis wall, just instead this time we slide, create solar, and then can slide back down and slam it to create a second larger solar wave of damaging energy. If the wave hits a scorched target, they ignite and explode. So it's kind of a nice little combo and an interesting way to play. Haven't really used this one too much yet, but I do like being able to slide, create that fire, and then slam on the ground. Very cool animation. So like I said, this one was a little bit longer, covered everything in those patch notes about Solar 3.0, went over each of the aspects for our classes. So hopefully this got you guys a better understanding of our Solar 3.0 this season. It's a little crazy what we can do with it so far. I think Void was more user-friendly personally. There's a lot of different ways that Void went with suppression, weakening, everything like that. Some of these fragments don't have the same oomph as our Void fragments, but also it is very early in the season and I haven't got to play around with it as much as I would have liked to yet. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this helped you guys out. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.